Hello YouTube, welcome to the channel. This is going to be a long video over the QYT KT-A16 radio here. So sorry about that. There's not a lot of information about this radio. So I basically wanted to have a full in-depth radio review of this in the software, the settings, in the cabin review, a power test, and a quick comparison maybe to the Sporty's PJ2 Plus radio. So go ahead and go down to the timeline. There you'll see different chapters if you want to skip around or skip to a section that's more of interest to you. But sorry about that. It's just a long video, and maybe I'll separate the sections or the videos out in separate videos as well. So maybe one video that compiles everything, and then I'll split up a software and settings video in one, an airplane review video of this in a second video, and a power test, and so on. But go ahead and check out the timeline if you guys want to skip around, but this is going to be a long video. So let's get into it. We'll go first into the software and settings, how to use that, because it's going to be a lot easier than using this. I mean, you can still use this, the menu settings directly on the radio, but it's going to speed up things if you use the software. So I wanted to show you guys how to use all of that. Then after that, we'll take a look at the power output of these radios, of this radio here, the QYT KT-A16. We'll compare it to the PJ2 Plus radio here with and without the battery, even with the USB-C port that it has. And then, we'll do an aviation flying test of this as well. And then we'll come back and talk to you guys later more about both of them and see what I like the best. All right, guys. So for this QYT KT-A16 radio, it's a lot easier if you go ahead and download the software versus trying to program it manually from the radio. So in order to do that, you'll find the QYT KT-A16 software by just typing it in your search bar. Click on the first link there with QYTradio.com. You can just go to the website and it should just bring you to this page, which is basically the downloads tab here. Scroll down and you'll be able to find it right here where it says QYT KT-A16 programming software. Once you click on that and download it and go through all of the steps to install it on your computer, then you will get to this screen. Open it up, you'll see the screen that looks like this. This will be the first screen that shows up when you open it, and it has a window called the optional features. Now a lot of these settings are going to be in the radio. We're going to turn it on here and you'll see a lot of the similar settings that you see if you hit menu here and you scroll up or down using these buttons, for example. You'll see that a lot of these also match up with what you see on the screen. It's just going to be a lot easier to make all the settings in the software quicker and faster than you can on the radio, and a lot of times you'll see some additional settings or more refined settings in the software than you do on the radio. Alright, so in order to start programming, once you have the software opened up, go ahead and open this little door here you have on the radio, and you need to get one of these connectors here. This is called the K-type connector. If you're a ham radio operator, you kind of know what I'm talking about because these are pretty standard for a lot of these radios that you get, and one side's going to have that, the other one's going to just be a regular USB-A cable here, or it's all in one cable, right? One is the USB-A, one is the K-type connector. This one's from Baofeng or Baofeng or Bufeng, however those people pronounce it over there in China. But in any case, I'll leave a link down in the description for this so that you guys can get the right one. But in any case, this only fits one way, right? You can see that one hole is a larger diameter than the other. You cannot put it in this way. They go this way, okay? So plug that in to your radio and have the other end plugged into your computer. So let's go back over to the software here, because then what you need to do is you want to read from the radio. Maybe you've already made some settings in here. Go over here and you're going to click on read into the software. It's going to connect, and it actually read it properly. Okay, that's interesting. So in case you don't get that correct, go up to the top where it says, let's see, communication. Now, depending on how many USB ports you have on your computer, that's how many COM ports that you're going to see. The radio here was connected to COM 6, and if your radio doesn't download the data properly, like if you get an error when you click the read button, go into the communication and choose a different COM port that you can activate. You just have to kind of make sure you find the right COM port. If not, you'll have to go to device management down in your menu, I believe, to find out which COM port your USB is plugged into. So anyway, it worked for me. That's what you got to do. And let's just go through this. A lot of these also are probably going to be explained in your manual, what these settings are. Some of them aren't. And let's just try and go through this together. The first one, this is the TMR. This is called the Transceiver Multiple Receive Mode. So what's neat about that is you have all these selections as off, M plus A, B, C, M, A, V, A, C, or whatever. That basically on the radio. So you have three different channels or options or three different frequencies that you could listen to. Now what I have, the way I have it set up is this is channel A, B, and C, right? In that order. So channel A and B are just going to be my settings that I have as the names of the airports or frequencies that I'm using. For example, AID Unicom, that's the Anderson Unicom frequency. Emergency is the 121.5. And then if you hit the exit button, you'll be able to go down all the way to the bottom. That one I just have is regular frequency mode. So this one I can I can type in any frequency I want as I wish, if I just need to quickly type in a frequency that I don't already have saved in here. So that's how I like to have it set up. And as you can see, this solid line, this solid triangle, that means that's the active frequency I'm listening on right now. And the standby frequency is this unfilled triangle, which is currently on the emergency. You can hit the exit button to go back to whichever one that you want to have as your M or your main frequency. But right now, for me, this works. This makes sense of how I have it right now. I'm always listening to this one, standby on this one. If you're scanning, by the way, if you just hold this scan button down and you're just scanning through it, you're not going to hear any of the other two channels here. You're just going to be listening to the ones that you're scanning through. Okay, so that's what this TMR setting is on the screen here. You can set it to whatever you like, and I'm just going to leave this like it is because that's how I like it. Now the squelch level, when you're listening to audio or transmissions on your radio, some of it might sound staticky and clear, and some of it might be really clear, but you want to be able to listen to frequency that breaks the squelch level. So the higher the number, the more sensitive the squelch is, and the least the number is the least sensitive. So if you have it on squelch number 1, you're going to be listening to a lot of maybe far distant communication, or a lot of false transmissions, or a lot of static. So I found that 5 is pretty good. Where you can see here, you can see the N and the S on the screen as well. This is your noise and signal levels here. So what works for me is number 5. Try that out. If you don't like it, you can always change it a little bit later. TOT is the timeout timer. So when you're talking on the radio, this is where you can set it to automatically cut off. So if you're talking for, let's say, 15 seconds, the radio is automatically going to stop your transmission and then reset it. So you'll have to re-key up on the PTT, the push to talk button here. So what I have on here is 60 seconds. That should generally be long enough for me to get a transmission across, especially when talking in the airplane. So if you don't want to have any timeout timer, just set it to off. But the reason I have this, let's say, for example, you have the radio on in the cockpit and it's somehow squished under your bag, or it's on your hip, and now you're sitting on the PTT button and you're just constantly transmitting without knowing about it, and you're just sending over audio through the airwaves on the frequency, and people are trying to get you to turn that off, but they can't reach you because you're hogging up the frequency by pushing that button. So I have it set for 60 for it, just in case that happens. Then the radio is going to automatically stop my transmission after 60 seconds. So it's nice to have like a little bit of a fail-safe there. So keep that into consideration. Do what you want. All right, so the save here is basically the battery saver. This setting here is just a ratio 1:1, 1:2. I just keep it off. I just want to make sure that it's always good to go, ready to go. I don't really fly super long all the time, but I guess if you're taking this on for very long trips, maybe you want to have a battery saver on there a little bit. The higher the number on there, the longer your battery is going to last, okay? I bought a secondary battery, so I have 2 batteries on this, and I have a battery eliminator, which is basically a fake battery pack here, but it has a cord on it that just plugs into a cigarette lighter. So maybe you want that. In that case, you're always going to have power if you just plug it in your vehicle or in a plane that has a plug like that. The ABR is the auto backlight. I have it off. You can change the setting if you want to have the auto backlight turning on or off by itself. So now we've got the beep. I turned off the beep. I think it's self-explanatory. Every time you touch a button, it's going to beep if you like that. The DTMF, this is the dual tone multi-frequency. If you're a ham operator, you kind of know what this is, but you don't need this for ham radio. So ignore that. I would leave that off. You don't need this for the aviation radio DTMF. Just leave that setting like it is. The BCL, that is the busy channel lockout. So for example, let's say one of the channels is busy, like someone else is talking on it. If there's somebody talking on it, or if it can has a frequency, or it can hear anything on this radio, you're not going to be able to transmit. So sometimes that could be bad, sometimes that could be good. In my case, I think it's bad for an aviation radio because a lot of airplanes or airports use similar frequencies. Like for example, around me, I get Greenwood and Kokomo or other ones on the same frequency as the Uniform Mike Papa here. And so when I'm flying the pattern, I want to be able to overcome those other guys so that the stronger signal is going to reach the local traffic at my airport. So I leave the busy channel lockout off so that I can always talk in case somebody else is talking on the frequency at a farther airport. Okay, so I leave it off. But again, all these settings is what I use, and I can only recommend what I recommend, and you guys are free to do what you want. Scan, add. If you want to have the ability to add, whenever you add a channel or something, to add it to your scan list, go ahead and select on. I like to have that on, so I'm just going to leave it on. I mean, the scanning, I'm usually never scanning when I'm flying. I'm just scanning like if I have the radio at home, or if I'm driving around, or if I'm at, I just want to listen to air traffic, I'll do the scanning. But when I'm flying, the scanning is not on. It's not really useful because I'm just obviously focused on, staying on the frequency of what's important at the time. The next option here is also a scan option. This is where you can select CO, TO, or SE. So TO is a timed operation, which basically means when the radio is scanning and it comes across an active frequency, it's going to stay on that frequency for approximately 5-6 seconds or something like that until, even if the transmission is still occurring, but then it's going to cycle through and continue on its scan list. Okay, so that's what 2 is. So it's only going to be a temporary listen in on that active frequency that it came across. CO, the carrier operated, the scan pauses on an active channel and resumes scanning only after the signal stops. So that's CO. But what I usually have it on is SE, which is search. So the scan stops on a transmission and then remains on this active channel until manually restarted. So I'll keep it on SE. So if I come across something, I just want to continue listening to that channel or that frequency to see what's really going on until I get bored with it or want to change it myself manually, which in that case, I'll just hit the scan button again and it'll just cycle through the list again. So that's what the TO, CO, and SE are. So I'll just leave it at SE for right now. Now, the next 3 here, A, B, and C channel display way, I really like these settings on ham radios and radios like this, and I'm glad that I have this option. So what I like to have on here is the channel plus the name. So at the top you'll see the CH01. This knob up here is the channel setting knob, so you can manually change that if you want, or you can use these up and down arrows here. So in any case, what I have it set on is channel plus name. So I always want to know what the name is, so I'm going to show you later that I programmed the frequencies and then I typed in the name for that frequency, and that's why we see UMPWX, which is Uniform Mike Papa Airport Weather, right? So channel plus name, so I always know what I'm listening to because I can't memorize all these frequencies. I mean, there's a ton of aviation frequencies. Some airports use the same ones, and what I did is I duplicated them but renamed them as their own. So I always make sure I know what I'm listening to. So I did that for channel A and channel B, and channel C should be frequency here. So that way, let's see, hold on, let's go over here. Actually, so I'll get into what I just did there in a little bit, but I have all these on channel plus name so that we can always see the channel name here, okay? This blue button here, this is your VFO mode or your channel mode. So right now I'm in channel mode. If I click the blue button again, now we're in frequency mode. This basically means that you can type whatever frequency you want and just instantly start listening to it, right? You are not gonna know, you actually go up and down in your frequencies as well as a step of 8.33 kilohertz, I believe. I think that's what the aviation band is. So you can also do that, but hit the blue button again to go back in channel mode so that you can just stick into your channel list that you've already programmed in, which I'll show you a little bit later. But that's what I have on channel C. So if I go down to channel C, I can also make that a channel mode as well. But right now, I keep it at VFO, so at least I always have one VFO on the screen so I can manually type in something really fast. Or if I don't even want to do that, just the blue button and then start typing again, right? Set it up. It's very convenient, very user-friendly, I think, and be customizable to how you like it. The TMR return AB, this is, like I said, what we talked about at the beginning with the transceiver multiple receive mode here. So once you are, let's say, listening to channel A, but channel B, something is going on there, so it switches to that to listen. And but after it's done, after the time that you set here, it's going to return back to its normal mode or original mode that you had it on, okay? So that is the main frequency return delay time during the multi-frequency standby. TX, transmit for TMR. So basically what that means is if you select track, it's automatically tracking and switching to the sub-frequency for transmission. And if you had fixed on here, if you selected fixed, then it's going to retain transmitting at the main frequency. So I don't really use this much, but we'll just leave it like it is here, or I'll just have it off actually. That way, whatever it's listening to, it's just going to stay on there. The auto lock, I have it off. Really plan to use the auto lock. You don't probably want to use this anyway, because if you're in emergency or if you need to use your radio, you need to use it, right? You don't want to mess around with additional locking stuff that's happening with your radio. Over here in the middle here, we've got A frequency model parameters. So basically, I wouldn't touch this too much because then you're getting into some of the very deep technical settings here of the radio. And if you're not a ham radio operator, a lot of this probably isn't going to make sense to you anyway. So I'm just going to talk to you like, how we should just use it for aviation bands. Basically, you leave whatever's on here. I always keep it at high power, by by the way. And we'll do a power test on this as well in the video, I think, just to kind of show you. I think it's got the same power output as the Sporty's PJ2 Plus radio, but we'll leave it at high, so we're always transmitting at high power. And then the RX is the receive, QT, DQT, and same for the TX. Leave these off. These are specific tones. They call them privacy tones in the ham world. And basically, you don't want to set any of these, because if you set a receive to 67 hertz here and a transmit to 69, whatever, if you do that, then nobody else is going to be able to hear you or know what you're saying unless they are also using the same tones, is what we call them, as you are. So, since in aviation, nobody's doing that because everybody needs to hear everybody, right? Leave these off. Do not touch them, okay? Aviation frequencies are narrow band, so let's make sure we keep narrow here. Don't worry about the step frequency here on the menu. Leave it with whatever it is, because what you need to do, let's go back to the radio here. Here you can see where I have it set for 8.33 kilohertz. You don't have this setting or option in the software here. So if your software is going to change your frequency, go back to the radio. Make sure you go back to the radio here and manually set it. That's one issue with this radio here. You can set it to all of these other ones, but you definitely want to stick to 8.33 kilohertz in the aviation band. And when you are satisfied with your selection, hit menu and you'll be able to get out of that, right? And it saves it, okay? Hit the exit button and you'll exit the settings. SFT_D, basically this is also for ham radio. Basically your offset in the positive or negative direction. I'm not going to get into that more. Same for here, you can set your offset frequency. So basically you can kind of use this as I don't recommend it. We should be using this as a aviation band radio, but you could be using it as offset frequencies with different transmit and receive frequencies. So you can kind of be a little more cryptic, I guess. I don't know. Let's leave those the way it is. You shouldn't be using it. If you want a radio that does all that stuff, get a ham radio license and get a ham radio and play around with that. Optional signal, we leave it as off. We don't need FSK. I believe FSK is frequency shift keying or something, but that's more cryptic transmissions and stuff. But you want to leave this radio as basic as possible when you're transmitting and receiving. Then you just leave this. You don't really have any options to turn off this speak mute. Just leave it the way it is. Voice and Vox. Voice, you can have it in Chinese or English. I speak English and German and some Spanish, but I don't speak any Chinese, so I might as well just leave it as off or in English. And then the VOX, this is voice activated transmission, so you can have a different setting here. Like if you don't want to push the PTT button on here, then you can always just do a voice activation. So if anytime you start talking and you break that squelch or that Vox level, then it's going to automatically start transmitting your voice. I leave it off because I want to be intentional for when I'm talking, so I'll leave it off and I'll physically push the red PTT button when I want to talk. The model number here, you can change, you can name whatever you want, your call sign or whatever. I'm just going to leave it like this. It doesn't really matter to me what I name the radio, but that's going to show up down here at the bottom where you see here it says the model KT-A16 here in red. Okay, now pay attention to these colors here. So you can change anything on here as far as the colors go. The first thing here is called the above stat 4 color. Now this I would not change, okay? Every time I've changed that, something weird happens where now I cannot use this blue button to go back to channel mode or frequency mode. I'll show you that right now. I'm not going to upload or write from the software to the radio real quick. I'll just show you this manually in the settings. Okay, so we'll go to what we have here. Here it is, STFC. Okay, let's back out and show you. So if I hit the blue button now, watch this. What I have selected in the solid triangle on basically channel 1 here, channel A. Sorry, I've been calling this channel 1, 2, 3. It's actually channel A, B, and C, and then channel 1 is your actual physical channels that you set up. So look, I'm basically in VFO mode, frequency mode, and now I'm in channel mode, right? Which is weird, if I change the color, let's just say purple. We're going to go from indigo to purple. Indigo was the default, right? Click on menu. It saves it. You can see now we've changed to purple. And what changes is this battery icon, this signal thingy here, the channel designator, and your noise and signal ratio here. So now let's push the blue button. Oh, it worked. Okay, that's weird. Didn't work before. Let's do gray. Okay, purple. Purple works and indigo works. But now you can see I proved my point here. I changed it to gray. The blue button no longer changes my channel mode to VFO mode. Let's see if another color does that. Black. Can't even activate black, actually. Doesn't even let you. Okay, white works. So don't do gray. Red. Let's try red. Red does not work. Okay. And now let's do blue. If you have it as blue, can you switch to VFO mode? Yes, you can. Green. Green. You cannot. Okay. Yellow. Nope. I went too far here. So anyway, I'm going to go back to indigo, and just keep that in mind, okay? So be careful what color you choose here. If you change it to one of them, like the red and gray, for example, you're not going to be able to switch back and forth between your VFO and channel mode. So take that into consideration. The other ones, it doesn't matter what you have, or at least these colors don't mess with that setting. So whatever you want to change your other colors to, then you should have no problem switching between the VFO mode and the channel mode. So as you can see, what I have set as the main 4 color is the green, which is this here at the top, and then the main sub 4, which is that, and then channel A. Now, if we move off of that, you can see channel A is yellow, but whatever you have selected is always going to be green because that's how I have the main sub 4 color. And then B is yellow, and channel C here is going to be white. That's just how I have it set up. And then you can change the same for your battery over here. I have it as white. When I transmit, which I don't have an antenna on here and I'm in the basement and there's no airplanes going around and we're pretty much safe, okay? But anyways, when you transmit, you want to have a one of those resistor things on there. I can show you that later. But when I transmit, it's going to show up in blue color. You saw that right there. So that's what you can select here, your transmit 4 color. And then when you're receiving frequencies, if somebody is transmitting and you can hear them, then I'm going to start seeing a red signal here, or the text is going to turn red. Yeah, see, now it's thinking I'm transmitting right now. Or not thinking, but it is transmitting like a high noise floor with this thing plugged in. But anyway, those are the color settings. So that's basically how you go through this whole optional features. Now that we've played around with this, let's check out the frequency settings here. So in order to do that, you want to go up to the top and click on channel like I just did. And you'll see the channel information. So I already have my frequency set up here. So we're just going to read from the radio. And we're going to pull them off the radio and show them to you here on the screen. All right, now it says it's complete reading data from the transceiver. Click OK. All right, see if I can make this bigger. Can't really make it maximized or bigger, can I? All right, anyway, so we'll have, let's see, how many frequencies can we put on this radio? I'm not sure. Let's go to the bottom. You can have up to 100, actually 200 frequencies because it starts with channel 0, right? So obviously I don't have 200 on here. It's not, I just keep the maybe local airports. I do have 40 frequencies on here, and let's kind of go through here. It's quite easy. So basically channel 1, 2, 3 all the way down. You can see channel corresponds to the CH number up here on the screen here. So you can see that's the channel number that you're on. And VHF, UHF, you can't change anything out of there. So you're going to leave all that the same. It's going to be easy. And then this is your, you know, what's great about aviation is that the receive and transmit frequencies are all going to be the same. We're not dealing with any kind of repeaters here where receive and transmit frequencies are going to be different and you have the tones and all that, right? For example, I got the 123.000 frequency on the receive and transmit. The CT-CSS and the receive and transmit here are off. Like I said, these are the tones, or the quiet tones, QT, are right here. We want to leave those off, right? Because if you set something there, the other radio that you want to talk to also has to have that. They can hear you, they can hear all your transmission, but you can't hear them because you set up the transmission. Or it's vice versa. You can hear them, but they can't hear you because of your receive and transmit tones that you have set up. So leave those off. You can see everything I have here is set to off, right? Transmit power, have it high, why not? And then select all these to N. This is your wideband or narrow band. It's all going to be narrow band. The PTT ID, your push to talk ID, you want to just leave that off. We're not dealing with that with aviation radios. This is all, some of this stuff is ham radio, right? Busy channel lock, you can leave that on or off. Like if you want to make sure you don't transmit on a frequency, like probably what's a good one maybe, for example, the weather channels, right? So your weather frequencies, sorry. You probably don't want to talk on those, right? And even if you did, probably nobody would hear you. But in any case, you could have that setting as on. Like it means that if it's on, that means when it's hearing a frequency or a transmission on that frequency, you will not be able to transmit over that, right? But I don't know. I'll just leave it all off just to be consistent, I guess. But you could leave that as on, and that's a kind of good idea to do for weather frequencies. Scan add, this means I want to make sure that this frequency is in my scanned list. When I want to scan through all the channels here, I want to be able to hear all of them. Well, let's just say you don't want to scan through like weather traffic or weather information. You could set those off, right? And whatever other ones that you don't want to add to your normal scan list of frequencies. Maybe, like for example, I don't live near Fort Wayne, but if I'm near Fort Wayne, I'd like to listen to it. But if I don't want to scan through it because obviously I'm not in that area, I can just turn these off, you know, and just scan through only important frequencies that are local or closer to me at any given time, right? And then you've got signal code. Leave those all the same. Same for this. Do not touch any of the DTMF tones. These are all tones for ham radio. The SP mute, leave this off, and the SCR, okay? Highly recommend. Now the last column, this is kind of important. Well, for me it's important because I want to know what frequency this 123.000 is. That's my Uniform Mike Papa Unicom frequency. That's my local airport that I typically fly out of, so that's why it's pretty early in the list there. And you can only put 6 digits in this channel name, unfortunately. So you're either going to just have to memorize or know your airport codes, because that's how I prefer that I would do it. Maybe, I guess, IND clear. Let's see, what's on channel 10? Because then I was able to put 7 characters. Channel 10. Okay. Yep. All right. So you are I guess you're able to do more than 6. I guess maybe about 7, because I didn't get more than 7 characters to fit on there. So anyway, you're limited to about 7 characters. You know, UMP space UNI. You could put a space in there if you can't distinguish, you know, Uniform Mike Papa airport code plus Unicom or WX for weather. You got to get used to abbreviations, I think, in the aviation world. So anyway, that's how I did it, how I recommend it. If it's a clearance frequency or ground, they just kind of abbreviate them GRD, TWR for tower, obviously. 5I4, that's Sheridan. So I just wrote SHER. That's just a local airport that doesn't really have any weather frequency anyway, so I'll just write Share to remind myself it's just Sheridan, even though now I've got 5I4 memorized. The glide balls, these are gliders or balloons, frequency 1 or 2, air-to-air frequency, air-to-air, GA, helicopter frequency, fixed air-to-air. So all of these, you can just get creative. Eventually, the more you use this, the more you'll memorize your own frequency name. So there you have it. That's basically the how you do the programming. Once you set everything in here, unfortunately, it's going to be tedious at the beginning. You definitely want to save this file so that you can always come back to it if you need to. If something happens to your radio, things get erased or reset, you can always re-upload things. When you're finished doing what you were programming here, you just click the write button. And it's just going to write automatically to your radio whatever channel settings or changes that you just did. What did I do? Did I do anything? I did make a change here on the scan. Okay, so I'm not going to get the UMP WX scan in the list anymore unless I go back and change that and re-upload it. So that's going to, what I'm doing here, this is going to write the information from what I just typed in here into the radio, right? You have to do the same thing for your features. If you want your settings like this to take place, go ahead and click write as well, and it's connecting. Okay, so you've got to write 2 different times, right? You're gonna have to write the information for channel information and your features. It's a little bit different than how we use Chirp or other radio software for ham radio. And also, when you save the information, it's going to come up here. You'll select your path where you want to save the file. And what I did is you have to save both of these in separate files, right? So one is called, I put the date, May 3rd, 2025, for example, 050325, KT-A16 frequencies. And so if I make a change, I'll probably change the date and rename it. And then same for the features. You can see that the other ones are I just called options. So that way you stay clear and concise of what is what and when you saved all this. So that's how you do all of this software usage for the channel information and your optional features. Now we'll go back to the radio, but if you don't have access to a computer at the time you need to change something, you can always, let's unplug it, because now that we're done with programming, you can go in here and you can always do your own things in here. But again, use the manual because this also kind of helps you understand what all of these abbreviations are and stuff like that. Okay, when you have this program, when you turn this on, just turn it on, but have it turned all the way down. That way that any transmission going out of this wire is not going into your computer very loud as a loud signal. And let's go through the rest of this radio. So you do have on here, this is the channel knob. So if you look here at the top here where it says CH021, now after you have this program, you can change manually up here, a nice tactical feel, all of the different channels that you want to switch to. You can also do that down here on the up and down arrows, right? And I don't know what this 8.3 means. MIE, which is Muncie 8 is, so that's the weather there, but that's interesting. This is channel 25. I have it as ASOS in the software. So maybe it can't put the S there, so it translated it to, oh, I see. Channel 20. Let's go back to 25. Here it cut it off. I have it in my, on the software as ASOS, so the ASOS weather, right? And it's all together. So it's interesting that they put a space here and it couldn't fit it on the screen, so it just put A3. Oh wait, it's a minor issue. I think from here you can still understand what frequency that is, right? This is the volume knob and power knob. I think you know how that works. And then these buttons over here, that's your turns off your display or turns on your display. So that's what that button does. As you can see, click, display on, don't want it on, turn it off, right? Doesn't turn the radio off, just turns the display off. That also helps save battery too. The second button here, that's your monitor, right? So what that means is right now I can't hear anything on this frequency because I have the squelch up at level 5, right? But let's say I can barely make out a transmission, and so I want to just instantly turn off the squelch and just listen or monitor the frequency. Just push this button and you're just always going to listen to that. It's a little bit staticky, obviously, but that's what that button does. So that's called the monitor. Sometimes that's handy when you just want to always just listen to that frequency in case somebody's a little bit far away, you can't really hear them too well. You just keep that on automatically so that the squelch doesn't constantly break in and out all the time when you're trying to listen. So basically that's it for the radio. This flap here is pretty nice. Fits in there well. It has a screw here if you want to take this off and use one of those other fancy plugs with maybe a headset that screws into here. It's more solid. What I don't like about this is that the belt clip is attached to the battery. Let's just say, because sometimes you might get batteries, but it doesn't come with a belt clip. Now you're screwed. Now you got to either take off the belt clip from one battery, put it on the other one. But what's nice is I did get another one that came with it. They're hard to find sometimes, but you know, you just have to deal with it sometimes. Let's turn this off. To open the battery, you'll squeeze on these two tabs here and slide it down. And you'll see it's a very thin, slim battery. This is what it is, the QYT 2000 milliamp hour battery, 7.4 volts. It's the model QB-8R, so you can always look these up. You can probably get some bigger ones too. I'm not too sure, but there is support out there. I would recommend getting at least 2 minimum batteries. I think they make batteries where you can actually put AA's or something in there. A lot of people complain about rechargeable batteries and they want instant power. Yeah, well, if you can just quickly swap out a whole battery pack with another one or a fresh one, then I think you'll be fine. I've never drained a battery. I mean, how long are you going to use these? I mean, you're only draining the battery when you're actually transmitting a lot. If it's just in standby mode, you're not going to drain the battery so fast. So I think people's concerns there are not really warranted about, you know, oh, the battery's going to die if you use these rechargeable ones. I wanted ones that, you know, are just easy to swap in, AA's. But yeah, I think your concerns are not major ones there. Just get another battery pack, 2, 3, 4, 5 or whatever, you know, just swap them in and out. And then when you get home or get to an area where you can charge it, then it comes with a charger docking station like this. Actually, you plug in the jack there, obviously, you set this in here, then you can charge it, right? Unfortunately, this doesn't have USB-C, which that would be really beneficial for a radio to have a USB charging like a lot of the new ham radios. It does have a nice little hole here for your lanyard strap if you want that. I do want that, but I don't know where it is, but I don't know. It's one less thing to have, I guess. It doesn't come with this B&C connector. This is something I added myself. You can get these accessories on Amazon or on the internet somewhere. Otherwise, you can just use the antenna that came with it. We'll show you the cockpit video test and why I use the B&C connector, just because the antenna that I use is just easy to plug on and off. It's a longer antenna, so it gets in the way when I'm not using it, so I just unscrew it, put it in my bag, and then when I want to use it, it's a quick B&C connector there, and it comes on. So that's the radio. Let's go out into the cockpit and test this out and let you guys know what I think from the air. Hey guys, we're going to go in the cockpit now and try out the QYT KT-A16 radio today. And so I've already got the microphone hooked up to the K connector type adapter, and the headphones here all through there. So it seems like it's working good. The only thing that I noticed is that you don't really get the monitor of like hearing yourself when you're talking like you would in a normal airplane. But I think when you transmit, we're going to try that out later. Maybe you can hear yourself. But right now, let's go ahead and check the weather here, okay? And you can see then what the receive like is going to be like. And this is going to be a aviation type antenna here for the handheld. It's a lot higher gain than the original stubby antenna that they come with. All radios usually just come with the standard stubby rubber duck antenna, they're called. But this one, I'm going to use a higher gain antenna. It's more tuned for the frequency band. So let's go ahead and try. I'm going to record here then the receive audio, because we're just going to listen to the weather maybe real quick, okay? Here we go.
50 at 11, visibility 10, sky condition, few 3. 4,000, 0, 100, temperature 17, dew point 0, 6, altimeter 2, 9er, 7, 8, remarks, density altitude.
Don't know if you guys can
1,
see that.
3, 9er, 0.
But it does sound pretty clear, but you know, I am on the ground at the airport, so we can try and also see what the receive is like up in the air. I already tested this out in my car, and I could get a pretty good distance on receiving weather reports from the AWAS and other airports from afar, like Indy Metro or Indianapolis International Airport. Okay guys, now we're going to go ahead and call the movement here at the airport. I'm going to just tell them I'm going to taxi to runway 33. Let's see how this works here. Metro traffic, Skyhawk 229 Mike Echo, taxi to runway 33. Indy Metro traffic 229 Mike Echo, just a quick radio check. All right, they can hear me. So we did confirm that they could hear my audio. I just can't hear myself talking on the, when I'm talking through here, while this is connected, I cannot get the audio here on the recording. So the microphone's not activated like it normally would be, so you can hear yourself because there's no monitor in here, it seems like. But that's okay. They can hear me, I can hear them. We're good to go. All right, so you can hear that. I mean, the radio's just laying on the chair right now, or the seat. We'll kind of maybe prop it up a little bit. Nice thing is it has this belt clip. Maybe put it here. It could get in the way. Maybe the rubber ducky's better in this case. However, I always like to have that extended range if I need it, especially for a low watt radio like this, 6 watt PEP. I think I'm going to test it. It's probably around 2 watts. All right, we're going to take off. We're going to call the departure. Indy Metro traffic, Skyhawk 229 Mike Echo, departing runway 33, Indy Metro. So I put that close to my mouth because I wasn't sure if, I think this is working, but I wanted to double check, make sure. So maybe I have to get the audio from live ATC. Okay, now I'm going to tell them that I'm going to leave the pattern, okay? Metro traffic, Skyhawk 229 Mike Echo, departing the pattern to the north. Microphone check. Microphone check. Okay, hopefully the background noise is not as loud anymore. So I'm just going to get up to 4,000 feet here. Alright, so I changed the audio back into my iPad so that you could hear me a lot more clearer than if I was still talking about this radio here connected. So far, what I've done is I've listened to the weather. Reception is good. I'm listening to other traffic as well, and I can pick it up very clearly here on this radio. And when I transmit, seems like everybody's able to hear me just well. I'm going to check the live ATC and probably put that in here as well, just to see if I can hear myself on that, since I can't hear myself through the monitor here. And then we'll be able to also see how this radio sounds like when it's transmitting my voice. So all in all, I like that it's a lot more compact and portable than the Sporty's PJ2 Plus. And I'm here just monitoring traffic and everything. I like this channel knob here because there's no memory on it. You just flip it, you just keep turning and turning and turning, and it's just going to cycle through all of your channels that you put on here, which is very nice. And I like that, I can clearly see UMP Uni, which means Uniform Mike Papa, which is the airport I fly out of, and the Unicom frequency. You can turn this to the weather, set up other airports,
things like that. And then the last one I just leave as a VFO mode, where you can just physically type in the specific frequency that you want. So what's nice is that you have 3 options on the screen to monitor. You can monitor all 3 at once, 2 at once, 1 at once, or none at all, or just monitor one frequency that you typed in. And so it's very practical, much more easier to use than the PJ2. I think the PJ2 is oversimplified or over basic, or they think it's a lot more easier to use because there's not a lot of buttons on here, but the buttons make sense on these radios. If you're a ham radio operator like me, this whole radio makes sense, and it's pretty easy to use. When I'm using the PJ2 Plus radio, sometimes, you know, let's turn this way. Sometimes I'm accidentally, you know, deleting frequencies or turning frequencies off, or I can't figure out how to get back into my memory channels. So, you know, it's just so much to fidget with because the buttons aren't so clear and you have to memorize patterns and things like that. But I mean, you can still type it in, which is what I have to do. It just takes a little bit more time. But once you get a radio set up like this, it seems to work very well. The color codes, or you can change the colors on the screen, which makes things stand out how you want to see it. But overall, this is looking really good for me, and I think it'll be with me all the time. So I really have no complaints about this radio. Very easy to use. All of these buttons on the side, the backlight button to turn it on and off the screen if you want, or if it went off, you can push that real quick to turn it on without pushing the transmit button or move any other buttons. This button here on the bottom, it's for monitoring, so if you just want to monitor the frequency the whole time without the squelch, that'll be good. I mean, so all the other features on here I'm going to explain to you guys out of the cockpit, okay? So this video was just to show you guys a little bit how this works up in the air. I'm at 4,000 feet getting good reception, obviously, line of sight. You know, you have to just live with this antenna if you want to have a high gain antenna, which I do. It's not going to be, it's not really in the way, especially if it's in emergencies. It's not a big deal. If you want to use the rubber ducky, you can. I'm not trying that out because I don't plan to use it very often. But I mean, the only other complaint is, like, I wish I could hear myself so that I know that my microphone's working, my transmitting is getting out there. But, you know, like, that's just a monitor feature that you have to get, that they have to program this in there or something, or at least this has to provide some power into that for that to happen. In the airplane, you just have these buttons here where you can listen to yourself with the monitor, you can listen to all pilot or crew or whatever, and it makes it a little convenient. I always like to listen to myself, sorry, through the headphones when I'm talking to make sure, you know, what I'm saying makes sense. But, you know, maybe that's just a preference and other people are not so concerned with that. All right, we're going to go put this on the ground, and I'll talk to you guys when we get back on the ground. See you later.
Indy Metro traffic, Skyhawk 229 Mike Echo, turning final runway 33, Indy Metro.
Wow, okay, we made the first taxiway. We'll call that a short field landing then. All right, let's clear the runway here.
Indy Metro traffic, Skyhawk 229 Mike Echo, clear of runway 33, Indy Metro.
All right, you died on me.
All right, guys, now it's time to show you guys the power output of this radio. But real quick, I want to show you, this is called the battery eliminator that I talked to you earlier about. As you can see, it's not really a battery at all. It's just basically a bunch of wires and stuff that convert a 12-volt system right here that you just plug into your normal car cigarette lighter, and then you just connect the back on there just like a normal battery pack, and you'll get constant power, and you won't have to worry about any batteries dying. So if you have something in the airplane with this kind of plug, then this will work perfectly for you. So as you can tell, by the way, like I said, it didn't come with a belt clip, so either you're gonna have to take off the one from an actual battery. You know, I have a couple batteries here. They somehow came with the belt clip, but the battery eliminator did not come with one. So I put Velcro on there to match it with Velcro on something else that I attach it for, and so it'll hold up like that. But in any case, let's go ahead and plug in the battery here and show you guys the power. Let's turn it on here. So I'm doing this with a full battery, and this right here is the Surecom SW102. This will check all the power basically in radio frequencies of VHF and UHF range. And it also checks SWR, which is the standing wave ratios for radios. But it is, in this case, we're not going to be transmitting. I mean, you could replace this and put an antenna on it, but we have just a dummy load right now. This is rated for 50 watts and it's a 50 ohm load. So we're going to always get perfect SWR, of course, but we'll just go ahead and plug this in. This is the BNC connector. Okay, so now that we've got it connected, basically just so you know, yeah, this radio can receive frequencies from 108 all the way up to 137 megahertz. But between 108 and 118, basically 118 megahertz, you're only going to be able to receive and not transmit on those other ones, those previous ones in that airband frequency range, is for things like nav aids. So to start transmitting, all of the transmitting frequencies go from 118 to 137 megahertz. So in this case, we're at 118 right now. Let's go ahead and start checking the power on all of the frequencies, 118 all the way to 137. I won't do them at all the step frequencies, just basically 118, 119, and I'll just get those all together for you guys. I won't go through all of it, but I'll just show you a couple of them here. So we're at 118. We're connected here. Let's go ahead and push the transmit button. As you can see, it turns blue when I transmit. And up here, that's where we're looking. If you look there, we are at 1.70 watts. Obviously, the SWR is 1.01 because we got perfect standing wave ratios with this dummy load here. And you can also see the frequency is exact at 118.000. Transmission rate is 99.99%. That means about 100% of this power is being outputted to under that frequency. But of course, that's to be expected because we're using a dummy load and not the antenna. But you know, the other antenna that I have also has a good SWR. So in any case, it's 1.70 watts. And let's go to the 127, basically something like that. 127,000. And we'll go ahead and transmit. Let's see what we got. And we're at 1.9291, something like that. As you can see, you're at 1.27. And so let's go to the highest end, 137. We're also at 1.93. I saw it get up to 1.93, and oh, I typed in 127 again. 137. Sorry. Oh, we can't do 137. Sorry, 136,000. We're at 1.86, but the highest frequency that you can go before it resets back to the original, let's see, 136,999975. Transmit 1.84. If we go up, now we're back to the 108, the very low end of the frequency. So let's go ahead and I'll get all the rest of the numbers for you guys. Since this is a really long video, just go ahead and take a look at the screen on the side and you'll see basically the whole frequency chart at the power. The QYT KT-A16 and the PJ2 Plus from Sporty's, they both claim that they output high power output of 6 watts, but that is 6 watts PEP. And when we're talking about PEP, that's the peak envelope power. So it's the maximum power output of a signal at its peak during one cycle of modulation. So that's measured in watts, and it represents the highest instantaneous power level within a signal's envelope. So in this case, this isn't measuring the PEP here. This is the average power, 1.85 watts. And with that up in the air, you're still generating a pretty good distance, or your signal's going out pretty far. We were able to test that in the airplane footage video, and you guys saw that as well. So there you go. That's the power output of QYT KT-A16 radio. All right, and I'll go ahead, since we have the PJ2, just to show you guys really quick what is the power. So 118, we're transmitting, and we are getting 1.56, more or less. Let's do the opposite end, or 12500. I'm gonna go in the middle somewhere here. Let's see what we got. 1.63, 165, okay. And then 136,000, 1.7. So honestly, we are, can I even transmit 137? I guess so. Nice. Go back down, 137. Okay, so you can transmit on 137 on the PJ2, but not on the KT-A16. But yeah, that's 1.77. So you are getting more power, honestly, overall with the QYT KT-A16 radio versus the Sporties. Again, this power is not the PEP like they mentioned in the listing. This is actually just the average power there. So we kept everything simple, apples to apples comparison on that. And so that's the power output of these radios here. The QYT is actually a little bit stronger than the PJ2 Plus. Okay guys, let's wrap this up. It's a very long video, right? But let's go ahead and talk about these two radios here. The one from Sporty's, the PJ2 Plus, which was my original radio that I got, and the newer one that I found that costs a lot cheaper. So let's first go over this PJ2 Plus radio. First off, you can already see that I have like some, well, let's see, a cracked belt clip here. Now I did reach out to Sporty's. They were able to send me one for free to fix that, but I haven't replaced it because it's still kind of holding there, but I wanted to at least have another one for when that, you know, basically continues to to completely fall off or break off. So I think it's just a really, really strong spring in there that's just constantly under tension, and it eventually broke it. I didn't drop this radio or anything, but even if you did, I guess, look at that, you're probably gonna break it, you know, and this thing is an expensive radio. This radio is $250. As you can see, I got a whole write-up of it here in the Sporty's catalog. It kind of goes through all features, which is nice. I do love this radio for the most part because of the actual jacks for your radio and your headset basically there. But I have a full review on this in general if you guys want to check that out. I don't really hate it, but there are some things on here that I don't like. Some major things that I don't like is that I can't change the name of the frequency here. So you're just gonna have to memorize frequencies. I mean, yeah, this is made for like quick on the go. Don't fuss with it or fiddle with it. Just punch in the numbers if you need something quick or, you know, immediately, and then you're ready to go immediately, right? And also sometimes it's a little bit too simple, right? Like there's no settings or menu settings in here. You kind of have to go in through like some really cryptic function settings or combinations here to even access certain things like backlighting and all of that. And sometimes I didn't even know like what screen I'm in or whatever, or what if I'm in menu or memories or something or recall. I don't even know the difference between these two, but I've actually accidentally overwritten some of my menu or my memory features or my memory frequencies in here just because of how maybe too simple it is. If you make one small mistake, it doesn't ask you, are you sure you want to replace this frequency? Are you sure you want to delete it? It just does it. So then I had to go spend time to put it back into the memory. So those are some quirks that I don't really like about it. You know, these buttons over here are quite functional too, like quickly to turn on the backlight, which KYT has that as well, and then a button here for switching back and forth between the two, last frequency and the frequency you're on now. But in any case, it's not too bad of a radio. You know, you still have to use AA batteries, and if you don't, at least you have a nice USB-C. But you know, this is all mitigated because all you have to do is just get an actual, you know, a second battery pack or more battery packs for this, and you're just good to go. Swap them in and out, and actually, you know, I've never ran out of power or come close to getting low on power on these radios, and you know, so 2 or 3 is going to be enough. And I did show you guys that battery eliminator before, which you could use and never have to have a battery as long as you have power for it. So what I liked more about this radio is probably around, I can't even remember anymore, $70, $80. It's less than $100. So if you could get like a few of these for the price of this. Now, if you dropped one, which one would you rather drop? Probably not the expensive one. This is a lot heavier too and bulkier and bigger compared to the KYT. The KYT, I think it has a lot more functionality to it. Once you get to know it and how it's set up, I think you're gonna like it a little bit more. I mean, you can easily turn to different channels that you already have preset. You can name the channels, you know what you're on, you know what's happening. You can change a lot of settings on here to make it more customizable to you. And you know, I think this is less of a hassle than using this. This one I understand more, I'm a ham operator, but you know, in general, I think it's just self-explanatory somehow. Once you get things programmed into your settings, this is basically gonna be my go-to in the cockpit if I need a backup radio versus carrying this. This might just be something I have around the house or in the car or vehicle just to kind of listen to, or who knows, you know. Even though this doesn't have the jacks on it, at least you can still buy, I'll put all this in the description, you can just buy the cable that you need, put it on there, and it'll connect to your headset, and it's just the same. It's the same concept as this, you know. You're still plugging something in, you know. Even if you have to buy it, the whole total package of all this is going to be less than the Sporty's PJ2 Plus radio. Now, some other options in their catalog. I mean, there's a lot of other expensive ones, even the ones from Yaesu, you know, an Asian brand here, $200, $199. Some of these have nav and navigation features on there. Okay, yeah, that might be nice if you need it, but for a basic communications radio, this one's going to do you really well, I think. Can't go wrong with it. And if you have any questions or comments about this radio, I'm willing to help you guys figure it out, because I think, you know, you're going to be a lot happier with this once you figure it out. I mean, yeah, this thing, people are also happy about it, but it's very, very basic. People probably like that. But I just think sometimes it's just too basic and you accidentally overwrite things, or you can never know what frequency you're on. You just always have to type it, double confirm with your iPad or your VFR sectional map or whatever, you know, AFD, all that kind of stuff. You always got to double check your frequencies unless you have them like really, really memorized, and you know, you're not panicking and accidentally turn it into a wrong frequency or button. Whereas here, if you're panicking or if you're in an emergency, you can just quickly turn the knob until you see, you know, what you want to talk to. You can set up emergency, you can set up guard, you can set up any airport and weather and all that. So there you guys have it. That's the video. Sorry it's a little bit long. Sorry if I rambled along, but if you guys have questions or specific things you want to know about this radio, let me know in the comment section and we'll get back to you guys as soon as possible. See you later.